Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. It is 1 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of your time and your commitment to being here on the free weekly webinar. And today we're going to talk about employees who might not be performing up to their standard, and what that might entail, what that looks like, and how we can kind of unstuck them. Because maybe you have the right person in place, but they're just not doing a good job. And it's like, oh man, what's going on? I thought this was going to be a rock star, hit a grand slam, and it's just not going well. So I'm going to talk about 5 key points. First point is going to be misalignment between roles and strengths. Second point is lack of clear expectations or feedback with your direct report. Number 3 is low psychological safety. This will be kind of the soft skills that we talk about. Number 4 is leaders avoid practical coaching and mentorship, which again, that is you and I as leaders engaging 100% in getting in the mix with our people. And we'll talk about how to do that. And then lastly, point number 5, personal distractions and burnout, and how all of these things tie together. So yes, let's jump into number 1, misalignment between roles and strengths. And if you see me looking down, I don't know if you're watching this or listening to this, but if you see me looking down, that's where my notes are. So helps me stay on track because my ADD tendencies do get the best of me sometimes. So the problem is sometimes even highly capable employees can underperform if their role doesn't match their natural strengths. I just got done helping a local organization do interviews. It's something that I do as part of my business model is I help people interview, even for companies that I don't work at, because if you can interview well and get a good candidate in the interview and ask the right questions, you can learn a lot about them and start to match up strengths and weaknesses. Really good example is last summer, I was helping a local business. They contracted with me to do interviews, specifically interviews. And I was helping them do interviews. And the business owner went through the interview process and was asking questions. And finally, I said, can I ask a couple questions? Sure, Todd, go ahead. So I asked questions about being very detail oriented and filling out forms because the job that they were hiring for required very detailed forms be filled out correctly because they would go to the state level. And so I started asking questions about that. And then this person that we were interviewing said, well, actually, I work for X company and we have forms that we have to turn into the federal government. And the forms entail, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all these different things. And so we have to be very precise and detail oriented in the forms that we fill out. Now, that was something the business owner did not ask. But we found out, hey, this person already has great experience with filling out these forms in a detailed way. And the forms that they're going to be doing in this new job are going to be detail oriented as well. So that's a really good match. Those things lined up really well. We went on to ask some more questions. This candidate turned out to be a really good candidate. He was hired and is still currently working there, doing a fantastic job. So aligning especially in the interview process, asking questions, not necessarily leading the person about, hey, this is what you're going to be doing, because that gives them, sometimes people are good at interviews and can answer questions well, but say, hey, tell me about experience that you have doing this. And they don't necessarily know that that's what they're going to be doing with the job with you, but it helps you assess where they're at in those current skills. Now, one of the solutions, if you've got a person who doesn't match up with the skills that you need, or you think they should be, but they're just not matching up, you can do strength assessments and find out if this person is in the right role. Because sometimes we hire a person and maybe we didn't ask the right questions, or maybe the company is shifting and the roles are shifting a little bit, and you need to understand, and they need to understand that maybe they're not going to be quite in the same job that they were hired for. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, but you have to assess strengths and weaknesses. Really good example is if you have somebody who's kind of an introvert, a wallflower, somebody who doesn't like interacting with the public, is that the person you want answering the phones? Probably not, because that's not going to be something that is in their wheelhouse. Now, if they're detail oriented and you need somebody who can work in a back office, keep their head down and bang out projects and not have to have a lot of interaction with people, maybe that's a really good fit for them. So looking at those things and seeing, does this line up with your strengths and your weaknesses? Because you want people to be successful, so align them with their strengths. Number 2, lack of clear expectations and feedback. Man, This is everything. This is every job, every company, every business, every organization. Ambiguity breeds underperformance. And if there is something that is unclear, it's like, I feel kind of stuck. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Yeah, you know what? I'll look at this after lunch. Well, I got this other project now that it's after lunch. Maybe I'll just push this till tomorrow. If people don't understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing, they're going to push things off because they don't know how to dive into it and attack it. And then if an employee doesn't know what success looks like, it's going to be hard for them to hit the target. I have talked about back in my teacher days, we had these things called anchor papers. So we would give these to students when we were doing a project or a paper and say, let's review this paper together. And this paper is an excellent example of what I want you to produce. So see where the headings are, see where the titles are, see where the bibliography, the works cited is. All of this is done perfectly, and we want your paper to mirror that. Now, not that they would necessarily copy the work, but it gives them a structure of this is what this looks like. Let's talk about your kids tying shoes, teaching kids how to tie shoes. You teach them how to tie a shoe. Okay, does your knot look like my knot? Okay, it doesn't. Let's make it look like this. And we have to set clear expectations, manageable goals, and schedule consistent feedback loops. Because just because you give really clear instruction, and let's say you gave great instructions, man, this is perfect. The standards is there. You've explained it. They've understood it. They've expressed to you that they understand it. Do you wait till the end of that project to see how it's going as a leader? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You should never wait until the end to see if the project is going well or if they're going to produce what you want, because you know exactly what you want. And maybe they understand it, but they understand it in a different way. And it's like, oh man, that is not at all what I want. But if you schedule regular feedback loop sessions where you can go in and help them realign what they're doing, then instead of making big jumps one direction or another, you just have to give little guidance. And I think about, I'm trying to give you a visual because I know some of you are listening to this and not watching this. But let's say you had a ball rolling down a hill. Let's say, let's pick a big hill in your area, and we're going to put it at the top of the street, and we're going to roll it down the middle of the street. Now, the street's probably 20, 30 feet wide, and you're going to roll this ball down the hill, but you want the ball to stay in the center of the street. If you wait until the ball gets all the way to the left side of the street or the right side of the street before you correct it, it's going to slow it down. It's going to have to travel a lot more. But if you can be traveling next to that ball and just give it little taps, little touches to keep it in the center of the street, it's going to go a lot straighter and be a lot more in alignment with what you want it to be. Same thing with our employees and our direct reports. If all we need to do is give them little touches here and there to keep them going in the right direction, that's much better than having to give them big changes and big direction shifts because we didn't check in with them. So check in with your people, make sure that they understand exactly what you are looking for so that they can produce exactly what you need. And that is one of the big killers in businesses and organizations, is lack of clear expectations or feedback. We have to always include feedback in that, because expectations can be clear, but sometimes people take creative license and go a different direction, and it's not what we need. That's not what we want produced. So giving that feedback throughout the course of the project is really important. Now, you as leaders are probably thinking, man, Todd, I have got meetings today. I've got meetings tomorrow. I've got a call here. I've got to go visit this person. I've got this project I'm working on. I don't have time to continually check in with people on projects. Let me put a pause right there. This doesn't need to be an hour-long meeting. I've said many times over, exceptional leadership can be done in bursts of 10 to 15 seconds, not minutes, seconds. And so here's what that might look like. Let's say you have an employee working on a project. You need to check in with them, but you've got a dentist appointment at 3:00. You've got a meeting at 2:00. The meeting gets over at 2:40. You've got 15 minutes where you can check in with them, and they work in the other part of the building. So here's what I want you to do. That morning, I want you to send a quick email, like 1 to 2 sentences. Hey, Todd, I'm going to stop by at 2:50, and I'm going to check on how this project project is going. If you have any questions, have them ready for me then. I need to be out because I've got a 3 o'clock dentist appointment. Great. Now they're in the mindset already that you're going to stop by, you're going to talk about the project, and you're going to get a progress report. So when you stop by at 2:50, hey, how's everything going? Do you have any questions? No, I don't. Great. Can I see the project? Sure. Here it is. Hey, see point number 3 right here? Let's change this to this right there because that's going to be more in alignment with what we need at the end. Got it. Sound great. Thanks. You're off. How long did that take? Under 60 seconds, right? A little touch, a little tap. That's all it needs to be. Now you've got them going in the right direction. You can check with them in with a couple days. Number 3, low psychological safety. When employees fear making mistakes or speaking up, their performance will stall. This is something that as leaders, I just had this conversation yesterday with a leader. And this leader said to me, well, you know what? Maybe I just need to not care. Maybe I need to stop caring as much about what other people think and just make the decisions that I need to make. And I said, let me challenge you on that. And I want to challenge you on that because I think it is 110% important that you do care. And not only that you care, but also how you come across to the people that you're communicating with. If you have an air about you that you don't care what people think, people can read that and feel that. And if they can read and feel that you don't care what they think, what do you think that's going to do for their productivity and their ability to care about the project that they're working on? Right, exactly. It's going to tank it and it's going to send it to the basement. So making sure that employees, direct reports feel not necessarily free to complain and cause problems, but if they have a legitimate concern about something, they have to feel psychologically safe enough to voice those things and have a conversation with you about it. Now, you're the leader. You may still make the call. No, we're not going to do that. And here's why we're not going to do that. But they need to feel safe enough to be able to do that. If you create a culture where they feel safe coming to you with ideas, questions, problems, and finding solutions to those things, they're going to be a lot more productive and you're going to get a lot more out of them. If they don't feel that, you're going to be pulling teeth all the time. You need to create a culture where learning from failure is valued. And this is something that I try to do with my direct reports and people that I work with. It's like, hey, Todd, I don't necessarily agree with you on this. And here's why. Okay. Yeah, I'll hear you out. Okay. You know what? That is a valid point. I never thought about it from that way. Thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for bringing that up. We may incorporate that. We may not, but that is a valid point. Thank you. Just complimenting somebody on how they've thought about a problem. You may not take their idea, but you can compliment them on how they address the problem, how they thought about it from a different angle. Even that little thing, again, a 10 to 15 second interaction creates a very positive culture. Hey, you know what? He didn't go with my idea, but he liked that I thought about it in a different way. And I like thinking about things in a different way. So you know what? I'll probably bring this up to Todd again, because maybe it'll work in a different setting. And now as the leader, I know, hey, Todd thinks about things differently, and maybe I'll use that to build rapport with him. So I'm going to see him in the break room later on today. Hey, Todd, yeah. Remember when you brought that up about that project we were working on yesterday? Yeah, we didn't go with that idea because we didn't want to use that idea there. But what about this project next week that we're going to start about? You've heard about that, right? Yes, I know you're on that team. Great. I think that could go really well with that project. So let's revisit that because I think that's valid, and I think we could definitely incorporate that in that project. Okay, cool, great. 15-second interaction. I've reaffirmed that person and how they addressed the problem yesterday. Now that I've thought about it, that would probably go really well in another problem or another project that we're going to be working on at a later time. Now this person feels like validated in how they've thought about something. Now what's the key there? As leaders, we have to be secure enough in ourselves to compliment others. And I know some leaders struggle with that. Some leaders always have to feel that they are in charge, their word is gold, and they're the smartest person in the room. Unfortunately, those leaders are going to struggle a lot in life. But if you know that you are not the smartest person in the room, That's probably one of the biggest and best realizations you can make. I interviewed my brother-in-law, Mike. Shout out to you, Mike. He works with a technology company. He used to work for Twitter, and we used to put internet on airplanes. That was one of the companies he worked for, and I forget what he does now. But I have an interview on my YouTube channel with him. So if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can go back and find this. What he does is he doesn't know the best thing about the project, and he admits himself he doesn't even understand all the facets of the project, but he is the senior engineer and the senior manager of the projects and his team. So what he has adopted the mindset of, I've got rock stars working for me. And he says this in our interview. He's like, if you have Mick Jagger as your singer, you let Mick Jagger sing. You don't put Mick Jagger on the drums because it doesn't make sense. You let your rock stars do what they're good at. And again, this goes back to talking about strengths and weaknesses. You let your rock stars do what they do best. So I don't understand all the facets of the project or how it works, but my job is to create an environment for them to succeed and get their work done. So if they need something, I need to provide that space for them so they can get it done. That was his mindset, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's fantastic. So being psychologically safe in those environments is really important for your direct reports to feel. All right, number 4, leaders who avoid practical coaching and mentorship are missing a huge opportunity. Many leaders fail to just come alongside their employees and just spend that time. Some leaders really like that corner office with the window view over Park Avenue, and they like that title, that status, and that's why they're leaders. Unfortunately, they're not good leaders if that's what they're in it for. But if you can come alongside your people, get into the trenches with them occasionally, work with them, talk with them about the work that they're doing, that's really, really valuable, and provide some guidance and some mentorship. I was working with a previous client who was complaining to me, like, I feel like I'm babysitting, Todd. All I do is I check on their work and I correct things. And it's like, why can't they just ever get it right and do it themselves? And I was like, well, how did you train them to do this work? Well, I sat them down, I went through the training, and they all got the training. Why can't they do it? It's like, well, how many times did they get the training? Well, one time. Oh, okay. Have you ever been told something once and then somebody comes and checks on you and you're like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that? Yeah, that's life. That's human nature. Our kids, how many times do we tell our kids to clean their rooms? Hundreds or thousands of times, right? If you can give something to somebody one time and they get it the first time and they never need coaching or mentorship on that again, you have found a unicorn, and you should lock them away in a castle somewhere where nobody else can ever hire them or steal them from you, because that is super, super, super rare. Your people need regular touches with you. Again, imagine that ball rolling down the street, just little taps here and there. We don't need major direction changes. We just need people going in the right direction. And coming alongside your people and being able to mentor them and coach them, like, hey, great job on this. You see line 4? Yes. What I need you to do is change line 4 so that it reads this way, because this is what the state is looking for on that form. Yep. No, you're doing a great job. You didn't know that, and I know you didn't know that. But if I gave that all to you in the training 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have remembered it. That's why, but you're doing it right now. So that's why I used this time to tell you, hey, this is when we're going to change this on line 4. Oh, okay, great. Again, a 15-second interaction. You provided mentorship, coaching, you corrected something that was incorrect, and you gave them one thing to think about. You got to remember, when people are going through training, they're getting hundreds of pieces of data thrown at them. But if they actually have the form in their hand and they're going through it and they're like, oh yeah, number 4, we needed to say this. That's one piece of information that they have to remember at that time. They're much more likely to remember that piece of information then, because it's one piece of information. So what is the solution for you as leaders? Regular interactions, regular coachings. And again, these don't need to be hour-long sit-down meetings. Come alongside them. Walk up to their desk. Don't even sit down. Just walk up to their desk and show them one thing. And then give them a compliment or affirm them in some way, and then leave. Walk away. Again, 15 to 20-second interaction, and you're good. That's all you need to do. One thing I used to do in my classroom, and I go back to my teaching days a lot because there's so much mentorship and coaching in education, is I would have these little 3x5 cards that had affirmations on them that were specific. And when my class was doing their classwork after I was done teaching and they were like doing the math problems or whatever, I would walk around with these 3x5 cards and it would say, "Hey, I like how you're working really hard right now." And I would simply set it on a corner of their desk. I would do a lap around the room and I'd come back and I'd pick it up and not say a word. And what I did and what I realized was I was affirming these kids all of the time. They would see that I saw that they were working really hard and then I didn't say anything about it. I just put the card on their desk. We had this invisible, unheard communication. They knew, I knew, nobody else had to know. And then I'd go put that card on somebody else's desk. And then after 15 minutes of classwork where they're doing this, I was able to affirm like a dozen kids, all for doing a great job on something that they were working on. It works. It works really well. They respected me more. They liked me. They wanted to please me more. And the same thing can go for your employees. If they get regular affirmations and touches from you and guidance, they will start to see you as the expert and not as the boss, because bosses give directions, but experts give information. So, number 5, last one, personal distractions and burnout. External stress, family, health, finances can derail somebody who is really, really good at something. And if you notice that you've got a top performer or somebody who's doing a fantastic job, and then you just see stuff kind of trail off, but nothing in the workplace has changed, maybe that's a cup of coffee. Maybe that's, "Hey, Todd, can you come to my office? I just want to check in with you on some things." And then when you sit down, close the door, "Hey, are you okay? Is everything going on?" Because typically you're performing at the 95th percentile and you've slipped to like 75th percentile. And that's not typical for you. And I don't want to think that you're doing a bad job, but like, is something going on? And I had this happen a couple weeks ago. One of the leaders that I'm coaching right now came to me and was like, "Yeah, my employee's going through a divorce, and I just found out about it. And now so many things over the past month make sense to me." And it's like, yeah, absolutely. And, I get employees, they don't want to necessarily talk about their personal lives. And so if you're an employee and you're watching this, I would encourage you, be open and honest. Like, "Hey, bad stuff is going to happen in life, and sometimes that's going to affect you." I just was talking with somebody on Facebook the other day, and we were having this conversation, and then they just dropped off for a couple of days, and I was like, "Man, they just ghosted me. That's kind of crazy," but whatever. So I moved on, and they messaged me this morning, and they were like, "Hey, one of my employees unexpectedly died this week." Gosh, yeah, okay. Todd takes a back seat. I totally get that. Totally makes sense. One of your employees unexpectedly died. Okay, yeah, you've got a lot of stuff you've got to deal with. Let's catch up later. You deal with what you need to deal with. You know how to get a hold of me. Yep. So, and again, having that psychological safe space where people know that they can come to you and talk to you about things that are going on in their lives, are really important. I've shared this story before, back when I was an assistant principal and a dean of academic affairs. I had one of my direct reports come in for our weekly meetings, and she came into my office and said, "Hey, Todd, this is kind of weird, but can I just cry in here for like 5 minutes? I just need to cry." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do some email. And then when you're ready, here's a box of tissues. And when you're ready, just let me know. We'll do our meeting." And she's like, "Okay." So she closed the door and she just cried to herself for like 5 minutes. I was doing email and she was like, "Okay, Todd, I'm ready." "Okay, everything all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm just going through some stuff." And I won't reveal everything that she was going through, but she revealed some personal things with me and, not with me, but to me about some of her things going on in her life. And I was like, "Okay, thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that." And then I asked, "Can I check in with you on those things to just see if you're doing okay?" She's like, "Yeah, that'd be great." So I did. That took our working relationship to another level because I provided a psychological safe space for her. She then knew that I knew that if she was having like a 75% day, I knew what was going on. because normally she was a 95% performer. She was always on her game. But there were some days she'd come in and I'd be like, hey, are you okay? She's like, no, not today. And I'm like, okay, do you need anything? She's like, nope, it's just going to be a rough day for me. Okay, let me know if, call me. I'll come do whatever I need to do for you. Okay. And it was so great. She felt supported. She had that psychological safe space. I was able to then help her. And then sometimes just because I could walk in, I would know okay, I can see she's down. Like I read people really well and I could see she was having a down day. I would bring her a cup of coffee out of the break room. Like, I think you need this today. And she'd be like, yeah, I did. Thanks, Todd. What a great working relationship we had. What a great working relationship we had. It was awesome. So normalize conversations about personal things if it's appropriate. If somebody says, hey, I'm going through a divorce, but I really don't want to talk to anybody at work about it, and I'm just going to handle that. Okay. Thank you for setting that boundary. That's perfectly fine. Thank you for telling me that you're going through a divorce, and now I understand that. That will help me understand you better. Um, and that is a great working relationship that you can have. Any questions? I'm going to let this, if anybody is on the chat that has any questions, I see some people with their microphones muted. That's perfectly fine. If you don't want to be on camera or have your voice on the recording, that's fine. But if you have any questions, go ahead, put them in the chat. Or if you have any situations you'd like to discuss, I like to get in and work with people and talk about some of the things that they're going through, because I mean, I could talk all day long, but I'd rather help somebody with something that they're dealing with. All right. I don't see anything popping up in the chat. So I will say thank you very much for joining me today. If you have found this valuable, this is what I do for a living. If you find that leadership coaching is something that you could use, please reach out to me. Let's have a conversation and just see if we are even a good fit to work together. That is how I get my business, and that is what I do to help people. A lot of times it is soft skills. It is not hard skills. I can't teach you accounting or how to program something, but I can teach you how to work with people really, really well. So thank you for joining me. I hope to see you all next week. Until then, have a fantastic week, everybody.